Enlightenment. That was this. And that was the video that we did upon the 5 major Enlightenment thinkers that we focused on. So that was in your notebook. I gave that back yesterday. Enlightenment Thinkers Gallery, that was the work that we did yesterday in class when you were out in the hallway and you were looking at Jean Locke, Rousseau, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Wollstonecraft. So we added on a little bit to that. Then, today, as part of our warm-up that we were going to do yesterday is this. And it's called the Enlightenment Thinkers on Top. It's going to be the warm-up. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes to complete the warm-up, and then we're going to discuss it together. But, no notes. Okay, you cannot use your notes from yesterday. You cannot use your Ed puzzle pictures. All I want you to do is, in this 6 minutes worth of time, is to see how well did we truly understand the concepts of our Enlightenment thinkers. Alright, so on the right-hand side where it says book, I put an X there because I'm not that concerned about their publications. I'm more concerned of, here is a statement, here's their ideas, and then which one of these Enlightenment thinkers would best match up with these ideals. Okay, there is a word bank on the top. They're only used one time in this portion of the warm-up. So read through these and then figure out which Enlightenment thinker matches up. One way that I've been saying for the whole day is go back to that Ed puzzle and think about the images that you created for each one of these Enlightenment thinkers. What did their picture look like? And then try to match it up with the words that are on the page. The second part is a document analysis using 4 excerpts from pretty famous documents. The Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen from France. Which Enlightenment thinker, or in some cases thinkers, gave these gentlemen these ideas. Okay, and that'll end the warm-up. So 6 minutes, that should be more than enough time for you to go through and figure out who the Enlightenment thinkers are. Okay, so 6 minutes. Go ahead. Remember, no notes. What do we remember from the top of our heads? Okay, yeah. Yes, front and back. Where you see X's, obviously, just leave it. About 4 more minutes.
trying to think of the pictures that you drew. Trying to match up like who was the pictures, like who they're talking about the three natural rights of God. Think about the three separate boxes. Think about what Enlightenment thinker potentially matched up with that image. Think of like Voltaire with the letter V. And Voltaire separates things. 30 seconds. Okay, switch your paper with your table partner. And then write your name on that person's sheet as the quote-unquote scorer. Okay, so let's take first of all is walking around. Remember in the Ed puzzle, how he broke down into simple images on how to remember these Enlightenment thinkers because some of their ideas are very, very similar. So we take a look at the first one. It says, government is a contract that exists between both the government and the people. What he said was not a legit contract, but a contract should be signed that the citizens have to give up some of their natural rights, some of their freedoms to a government structure in order for it to absolutely work. Okay, that we have to have rules, we have to have regulations within our government system that allows us to be free, democratic people. So who was the one who created the social contract? His picture looked like the little scroll, and then, not as good as his, but what was his name? Rousseau. Okay. So when he came up with the social contract, he is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. The second one is this person was talking about religious tolerance, and his letter separates literally the church and state, also religious freedoms. Voltaire. Okay, so if we remember his picture, on one side was separation of church and state, and that was Voltaire. Voltaire talked about you shouldn't have a government structure that creates its laws and regulations around a religious text. That we need to separate ourselves on what is considered to be religious part of our country and what is considered to be the state or our government. Okay, so because you can't guarantee the freedom of religious tolerance if you have, for example, the Bible and you're taking the laws and regulations straight from the Bible. Well, people that aren't Christian are going to be then persecuted. So Voltaire said to separate the two. Voltaire also has, basically, his fingerprint is on which amendment of the U.S. Constitution? Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. The first. Okay, so it is the First Amendment. Okay, the next thinker is that you have to have a central authority because we're too greedy, we're too selfish, we're too self-centered, so we still need a person, one person, who is going to get power, because if we leave it up to a group of people, we're never going to get there. Thomas Hobbes. Okay, so we have Thomas Hobbes is the third one. The fourth one is the best form of government is if I separate it into equal branches. Wes? Not John Locke. His picture looked like this. It was 3 boxes. In those 3 boxes, you put the letter E, the letter L, and the letter J. Who was the guy who came up with this concept of the separation of powers? Montesquieu. Okay, so his name, Baron Montesquieu. What else did he say? when it says, if I'm going to have a legislative, an executive, and judicial branches, and they're all going to have equal weight and power, how do I guarantee that? What else did Montesquieu create that would give me this equal weight and power?
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances. So he talks about also is the checks and balance process. So not one branch of the government can go higher than the other two. The last one is the monarchs weren't chosen by God, but it should be the consent of the people of life, liberty, and property, the big three natural rights of man. That is John Locke. Okay, was there any questions on those 5? All right, so let's take a look then at excerpts that came from pretty famous documents of this time period and figure out which Enlightenment thinker has his blueprint on it. Okay, volunteer to read number 1. Go.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Declaration.
Okay, so Thomas Jefferson wrote those words. Who did he basically take those from? When he created those words, who is that, Scott?
John Locke.
John Locke. Okay, so John Locke, he is all over this one, John Locke, and the 3 natural rights of man. Okay, Dexter, choose somebody to read number 2.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Okay,
U.S. Bill of Rights.
so from the U.S. Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, who is this person who's talking to us about religious freedoms and separating that from the government? Voltaire. Okay, so number 2 was directly from this thinker. We have Voltaire. Any questions on those 2 documents? Okay, turn the page over. Okay, Philip, choose somebody to read the hefty number 3. Okay, Ben.
All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of the Senate and House of Representatives. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish.
Okay, number 3 is what Enlightenment thinker? Alicia? Montesquieu. The separation of powers. Okay, so he talks about the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch as the 3 branches of government. And then finally, Ben, choose somebody to read number 4.
The free communication of ideas and opinions is one of the most precious of the rights of man. Every citizen may thus speak, write, and print with freedom, but shall be responsible for such abuses of this freedom shall be defended by law. Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizens, France.
Okay, so, and then we're going to talk about the Declaration of the Rights of Man when we get into the French Revolution. Who's the Enlightenment thinkers here that would apply to this one? What did Thomas Hobbes say? Thomas Hobbes believed in what type of government? Central. What type of government would that be? Okay, so if I have a central government, a monarch, and I see words like free communication, would that happen in a monarchy? Okay, so Thomas Hobbes is out. Who else? Rousseau is 1. Why Rousseau? Why is Rousseau the first answer? What did Rousseau again ask of us?
Social contract.
So what did that mean again?
So, like, people, I guess, have to work with the government to.
Okay, you have to give up some of these rights, or at least have some leeway on some of these rights, because when they say the First Amendment, he's talking about freedom of speech here, Rousseau, and he's saying that's okay if we're going to give you freedom of speech, but you have to be held responsible for that speech. Who else would match up with this person? Rousseau and John Locke, and the 3 rights, natural rights are here. Life, liberty, is that written in this statement? Who else is all over this?
Voltaire.
Voltaire. because we're talking right at the beginning. It says, the free communication of ideas and opinions is one of the most precious of the rights of man. That's Voltaire, talking about the freedom of speech. The second part of it is the social contract part is, yes, there's freedom of speech, but there are consequences for your actions. That is that social contract that the government and the people have together. Is there any questions on the 4 documents?
So if number 4 were to be like a question on a test, I don't, well, for probably what we do exactly like, but if it were to be something like that on a test, should we put multiple people or just one person?
Yeah, if there was, let's say this was a fill in the blank, then you would have to give me both Voltaire and Rousseau. Okay, but I think it'll be a little bit more clear cut on our test. But this is, any other questions on the 4 documents? All right, make sure that with our notebook check tomorrow, the first thing we want to do is check this to make sure it's on that page and it's there. Please, if you had struggled with this, you need to go back to the Enlightenment Ed Puzzle notes and the Gallery Walk notes and study the Enlightenment thinkers. All right, transition then to the Alpha box. And it looks like this on the board. Okay, the next one is the Alpha box looks like this.
Like the laminator.
So, how we're going to do this activity is we're going to take a look at it. It's about a 5-minute parody video that gives us a little bit of, bits and pieces of some of the major events, the major leaders, the major moments of the French Revolution from 1789 to 1799 and the term of Napoleon about starting. Okay, that's going to be our focus for the next couple of weeks. So what we're going to do with the Alpha box is start to create some vocabulary and some language that's associated with this revolution. So how we do an Alpha box is, when you're watching the video, is any term, vocabulary term that we see, any major leader, any major event, moment that was part of this video in the French Revolution will go in the proper box. So the word obviously has to start with that letter of the alphabet. Okay. As an example, so if you see apple in there for Sir Isaac Newton, then that would go in the letter A box. Your goal is to get at least 2 in each box as we take a look at this parody video. And some of them have like 4, 5, or 6 of them. Some of them are probably just going to have 2, especially when we get to the tail end of the alphabet and that W, X, Y, and Z part. There's not going to be too many words there. But the rest of the boxes, based upon this small 5-minute video, we're going to be able to build a great understanding of the French Revolution before we even dig a little bit deeper starting tomorrow by doing this exercise. Is there any questions on how to do the Alpha box? Okay, I need you to circle these 3 letters. E, L, F. This is going to be the battle cry of the revolutionaries in France. This is what they're going to come around together on. This concept of E, L, and F. And we'll talk about that as soon as the video is over. You should be able to, actually I'm going to say, before I start it, I want you to take 30 seconds or so. Use the quadrant activity that you turned in a couple days ago. How many can you fill out without even watching the video? Take 30 seconds, and we did a whole French Revolution box. Major leaders, and there were 5 events. 30 seconds before I'm going to start the video. Are there any term or any letters that you can already fill out before I even show the video?
Exactly. I was called B.
It will be
But it's so easy.
Okay. Alright. So, for this video now is, like I said, you're looking at it. I put the captions on so you can, in some moments it's hard to see, especially when some parts of the room you see the actual screen, but the captions are there. Look at the pictures, look at the events, look at the people, look at the moments of this French Revolution, and go with the outbox. Yeah.
So if it's two words like Marie Antoinette, would we put it in the end box? Or like in the...
It can go either way. Like if it was Louis the 16th, if it was King Louis the 16th, you can go K or L. Marie Antoinette would be M or A. But then her name should be done. So if you're going to put it in A, then it shouldn't be showing up again in M. Okay, this is the parody video, so you should be focused on the alpha box as we go through Lady Gaga singing about the French Revolution.
Inequality rises to feel that it is unfair. On the previous days, you should have known the status is unfair. La liberté, égalité, fraternité, a revolution. La liberté, égalité, a revolution. Don't want no taxes, I'm paying too much. Let them eat cake, we had a banquet for lunch. Eat my bread, off of her head. It went from 8 to 12 in a year. Exactly what impoverished peasants had feared. The lawyers cheer. Ha ha ha, these were for us. There was a famine, the peasants wouldn't pay. Bad malnutrition, tooth decay. It is the family to the boys, while you and me discover revolution. The more in this harmony, the more you and me discover revolution. On the tennis court, we saw the Constitution. Revolution in France. Don't you let the team stop your Constitution. Revolution in France. French Revolution. Month of August 1789. No feudalism, Declaration of Rights, his decree. Sweat away to estates. Women of Paris marched down of the sky, carrying weapons the French king they defied. Give us bread, oh, stubby bread. A new constitution, with the monarchy, it was a bad time for France. They took on us without warning, spring of pride, revolution. Roast the egg, reign of terror, did it for the public safety. I want your loyalty, or I get my revenge. I take you out until you're rebellion. So want no church, Catholic.
Somebody class for dismissal. If he would send Chapman and Tears to the office.
Okay. Before we come together and do the alpha chart, I want you to take about a minute or two, and with your table partner is look at each other's alpha boxes and see if they had some items in their alpha box that you missed for some reason in the video. Take about a minute or two, and then we'll come back together as a whole group and discuss.
I didn't get anything for I or J.
I got Jean.
Oh, from the ones.
I guess I did nutrition. Wait, what you do? Oh, Paris and oh, I know.
There was anything I said
Yeah, for as a first deal. Oh, cool.
The Enlightenment. I mean, because we have been talking about the
I am
Enlightenment.
like totally
Enlightenment
like
thinkers
Dead.
So, yes, our Enlightenment thinkers should be on.
I put tennis court though for T.
They are part of the French Revolution.
And then taxes.
Say about 30 more seconds. Just a quick conversation. What else? What did they get that you might have missed?
Harvey for H, like William Harvey.
That was supposed to be just French Revolution.
Oh.
So you put Adolf Hitler, Austria. It's, I think I should put them states.
All happening at the same time.
Let's go. What's the code again? What's it called? Like, no, but it's just, winner.
I can't remember anything else in the
One last person.
Alright, I'm going to start here. Before we go to letter A, I had you circle these three letters is E, F, and L. Why? These were this is the battle cry, and this is what the revolutionaries were talking about, they were thinking about, they were preaching about on the streets of Paris and the streets of Versailles.
Please send Chapman Pierce
So if I
out of
look
Miss
at,
Bollinger's
if I look at
dispersal
letter
to the
E,
main office.
what was the
Pierce
letter E
for
battle
dismissal.
cry? Okay, so equality or equality. Okay, equality was the letter E. How about the letter F? Okay, so we wanted the equality. Remember, the whole purpose of the Enlightenment movement was individualism, for people to think on their own, to be able to have certain rights. What would be F? Fraternity. What did the French revolutionaries mean by fraternity? Why would they use fraternity as a battle cry for a revolution? When I think of fraternity, what is a fraternity? Like if I'm on a college campus, what would be a fraternity?
A group in college,
Their whole purpose is to come together, or a sense of what?
friends.
Friends and brotherhood. Okay, so the idea is to create alliance and a brotherhood. Okay, and then before I go back to letter A, is the letter L. So it is equality, it was this fraternity, this sense of brotherhood, and then L, liberty. Okay, so, and we'll come back to L later. So this idea, this concept of liberty for all citizens, not just based on social status. So go back to letter A. What are some terms that we got from this parody video about the French Revolution that would start with A? I'm sorry, what? Army. Okay, so what we're going to see is the revolutionaries are going to have to build themselves up a militia and then eventually an army to fight the monarchy. Anything else, A?
I think they said something about Austria.
Okay, Austria. Austria is going to play a role because their alliances with France at first, because the whole purpose of the marriage between Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI was a political alliance for these two countries who have had conflict for over 100 years. Then eventually Austria is going to declare war on France on the way that they're treating their queen and other reasons. Is there anything else that would go with the letter A from the video from the French Revolution? Okay, so we can use Marie Antoinette here, as she will become the last queen of France. Anything else that is in the letter A?
August.
Okay, one of the last ones is, it was called the August Decree. So when we get deeper into the French Revolution, this is going to be, that date represents truly the end of the monarchy in France. The Bourbon family's leadership, their governing role, it's over. France is going to turn into a republic. How about B? And this is one of your 5 major events. This should be an easier one. What is B? Bread. And make sure if we didn't capitalize that, because this will be one of the major causes of the French Revolution. It is a huge part of the French diet. So when people don't have it, they get upset.
I thought Palestine,
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so the Bastille. We're going to talk about the Bastille and the prison and what it represents in Paris. And then when they tear it down, it's going to be a metaphor for this whole revolution. Anything else, letter B?
I wrote down brotherhood.
Okay, so you can have, on the fraternity side of it, we can include the brotherhood portion. All right, letter C. There were some things that were going on in letter C that's going to help us understand this revolution. Constitution. Okay, so the whole purpose of the tennis court oath, when the National Assembly gets locked out of the 3 states, the States General, they go across the street to an old battle ball court, they make an oath, and the purpose was, we will protest until this country gets a constitution. What else?
It's the end of Catholicism.
Okay, so Catholicism, and then put a little X there because in France for well over a year, they're going to literally get rid of everything that's related to the Catholic Church. Street names, relics, everything. The calendar, the seasons, how many days are in a week. All of this will be gone. Anything else, C?
Like the tennis court and the court part.
Okay, so the tennis court oath, I'll just put court here for now, because that's going to probably belong in another letter. Anything else that's C?
It's kind of the same, but I feel like Catholic Church.
Okay, so Catholicism, or then we can just use church here too. Anything else that's C that's outside of these? Calendar. And I just mentioned they're going to change the entire calendar, including the year. They're going to start at year 1, which is the August Decree, and go forward because they want to remove everything from the religious part of France. How about D? For the letter D, French Revolution. Okay, so the directory. Anything else that's letter D?
Declaration of Rights.
Okay, so the big one is the Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. Anything else that was the letter D for the French Revolution? Death. Okay, so people are obviously going to die in still one of the bloodiest revolutions in world history. Anything else, D? Okay, E, other than equality. What else would be E? Okay, the Enlightenment period. Our Enlightenment thinkers are going to play a huge role. This is happening at the same time. So the Enlightenment period is going to help the French Revolution. What else? Execution. And I'm sure the letter G is going to come in handy for the execution part. What else? Okay, so we're talking about the continent, so we're talking about geography, we're talking about Europe. Anything else, E? Okay, F, outside of fraternity. France. Okay, so easy one there is we are in France. What else? Famine, as it relates to, the bread and the poverty of the peasants. Freedom. Okay, so the freedom from this absolute monarch. Okay, G, as we need to move a little bit quicker. Guillotine. Okay, and we're going to see how the guillotine was created as a humane way of execution. God. Okay, or in this case, they're going to try to remove him. Guns. Okay, and that was at the Bastille. You can't have a revolution without weapons. How about H? Is there anything on the French Revolution from this video that would be H? Thomas Hobbes? Okay, so we have one of our Enlightenment thinkers, Thomas Hobbes, coming up. Is there anything else H? Okay, so how does that relate to the French?
That's the scientific one.
Yeah, that's the scientific one. Only French Revolution here. Is there anything else that would be H? Okay, move on then to letter I. So we'll do the next two rows. What do we got for I? Anything for I?
Individualism.
Individualism? Okay, and that's the whole purpose of this Enlightenment period, is this concept of individualism. Okay, invade, as we're focusing on Austria, is going to invade France eventually.
Injuries?
Sorry?
Injuries?
Injuries. Okay. If we're fighting a war, we will have injuries. What else? Inequality is a really good one. And we're good on I. J. And there was one, I don't know if there was a political group that Max Robespierre was a part of. They're eventually going to kill the king. Well, J. Who's got J?
Judicial.
Judicial. Anything else, J?
John Locke.
John Locke. Anything else that would be J? Justice for the people of France. And then the last one is the group, let's call it a debating club. It was called the Jacobins. They're going to be responsible for King Louis XVI's trial.
July 14th.
Okay, and the last one for everybody should have is July 14th, 1789. That's their Independence Day in France. They stormed the Bastille. Okay. The very easy one.
King Louis.
Okay, so King. Okay, and you can put King Louis here, or obviously an L, King Louis XVI. Is there anything else that would be K? Kill. Very simple. If we're in a bloody revolution, there's going to be a lot of killing.
Kingdom.
Okay, kingdom, which will be coming to an end for France. How about L? Outside of Louis XVI. Legislation. Anything else? L? Yeah. Liberty. Well, we had liberty up there already. Okay, so the book of the Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, the sea monster. How about M? M. What would be some M's? Monarchy. Anything else? Letter M. Montesquieu. Anything else that would be letter M as part of the French Revolution?
Maximilian Robes.
Okay, so we have Max Robespierre. One more for M. Marie Antoinette. So we used her already, but you can have her down here also. Marie Antoinette. How about the letter N? The video ended with this person. Napoleon. Okay, and that's going to be around the time here when he becomes the Emperor of France. What else?
Notre Dame.
Okay. Okay, so Notre Dame, the famous cathedral in Paris. Obviously, it's going to play a role in the Catholic Church being attacked by these French revolutionaries. How about the letter O? Run out of time. Letter O. Off with their head. Okay. And does anybody remember from doing the quadrant activity, who probably would have quoted on saying off with their head? He'll say it several hundred times. Because he wrote a famous newspaper, The Friend of the People. Does anybody remember the leader's name?
Isn't it the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland?
Not this person, though.
Can I just say something?
Well, let's start. Off with their heads was first of all, but I'm going to just say his name now, is Jean-Paul Marat. What else do you have for O?
I put opposing views.
Okay, good.
Because they had different ideas.
Right, and that's exactly right, because when you're looking at this, even though there's going to be multiple factions in this revolution, they all have the same goal, which is the end of the monarchy, the end of the king and queen's power. But how we achieve that goal is very, very different. Some want the king and queen completely dead. Some of them just keep them in prison for the rest of their lives. So how they fought this revolution, the goal was the same. How they wanted to get to the end goal is different. P for French Revolution. Okay. All right, so Jean-Paul Marat. Political. What else?
Property.
Okay, property. So we're going back into John Locke and the rights of man. Anything else? P, the most obvious one. Peasants. Peasants and what else would go with peasants? Poverty. And then the most obvious P. Where am I? Paris. Okay, people would be a good one too, I guess. Okay, so Paris. Okay, and then any questions on that before we move on to the last little set? All right, so then finishing up. And we're just on time, probably just only going to do a couple. Is for the letter Q. What is Q? Queen. Anything else that would be Q? This one was a harder one to come up with too. I don't even know if I have a second one. Oh, what? Anything else Q? Okay. How about R? How about the letter R? Okay, reign of terror is probably one of the biggest ones under R, so reign of terror. Anything else R? Revolution. All right, moving on to S. So reign of terror and revolution, S. Okay, scaffolding. So the scaffold leading up to the guillotine. Anything else? S. Okay, so the storming of the Bastille, which is July 14th, 1789. Anything else? Well, we're going to do on to now. T. What would the letter T be? Tennis court oath, the biggest one. And that is, again, that oath that we will continue to fight and protest until the Constitution is created in France. Okay, so trial of King Louis XVI. U. Anybody got anything for U? Think of the fraternity. What would be a term for brotherhood?
Excuse the interruption, teachers. But at this time, students that ride bus 1453, this is an announcement for students that ride 1453 in the afternoon. For the rest of the year, you will be riding 1430. All students that ride 1453 in the afternoon will be riding 1430. It will not change your drop-off time. It will be the same. So if you ride 1453 from now until, you'll be on 1430. Also, I need Ayanna Frazier, Brianna Baxter, Cameron Warner, to please come to the main office.
Okay, bell's gonna ring here in just a couple minutes. How about B? The last one we'll do. This is that little suburb about outside, 12 miles outside of Paris. Okay, Versailles. Okay, so the town of Versailles. And the last one is could be XVI for that. What is that?
16.
16. So in Roman numeral Louis the 16th. And Voltaire.
We don't, and I guess you could say that before the revelation it wasn't cleaned up Christendom because it was all the power was the same
Okay, we'll get into the documentary tomorrow on the French. Getting deeper into this work.